when you started this morning. So please don't hesitate, use the chat, and we'll do our best to answer it as quickly as possible. And we'll go ahead and get started here. So first thing we want you guys to know about is about ASSA ABLOY, okay? We're the largest manufacturers for security products for openings on the planet. That's it, all right? There's nobody else that does what we do as much as what we do. So you may have seen like you see some of the companies here on this screen here, Sargent, HID, Ameristar, Rixon, Norton, Medico. Then maybe some you never even heard of, like Alarm Controls or Tessa or Philips. There are hundreds and hundreds of solutions that are available to you. So you don't have to say no to any opportunities, okay? That's what this is about. So as businesses are opening up, we want you to be able to maximize all your opportunities. That's why Tony Green is here. If you ever have any questions about any of the solutions, please don't hesitate to reach out to anybody from ASSA ABLOY, and we'll definitely take care of you, okay? So this screen is going to show you here all the opportunities that are available to you. It's not just about doors anymore, okay? We've got locks for traffic, cabinet locks, gate locks, electromagnetic locks, egress accessories. There's not much we don't do in this industry. So ask, always ask. That way you're taken care of. And our customer service, I tell you, is second to none. So we'll make sure you get taken care of. So when you're talking about power, okay, safety is a very important thing. And I'm pretty sure somebody on this call, on this Zoom, has been shot at one time or another. There's two types of people in this industry: those who have been shot and those who will be shot. That's the way it is. So we want to make sure you are safe. So make sure you're checking for hot wires, use your multimeter, use your wands. All these things are very important to have in your truck, van, whatever it is, especially when it's concerning power, okay? So the thing we want to point out real quick is our warranty when it comes to ASSA ABLOY, especially when it comes to our power supply. We have a MagnaCare lifetime, no questions asked warranty. Covers a lot of different products, not just our power supplies, okay? So electromagnetic locks, specialty locks, push buttons, keypads, key switches, a lot of products fall up under that MagnaCare warranty. And you're gonna get problems with products due to use and abuse of the customers or people using your door. Wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to pay for it again, right? That's what this MagnaCare lifetime warranty is all about. So we also have Secure Care warranty for our electric strikes. Again, no questions asked warranty, 10-year no fault. For our electric strikes, fold your atoms, integrated Wiegand electric strikes, and then we have products that fall up under our Secure Care 5-year warranty. Those are our basic strikes right out of the box. And then our Secure Care 3-year warranty for our period products, cabinet locks, those types of things. So if you ever have any questions, you can get a hold of us and we can clarify that. But the majority of our products fall up under that MagnaCare no questions asked warranty for life of the product there. So just to show you a quick comparison of our warranty compared to a lot of our competitors out there, a lot of them give a limited lifetime warranty. What does that mean? It means, and this is right on the box, I'm not making any of this stuff up, that they cover workmanship, okay? If there's a deficiency in the product, you have to send it back to their manufacturer. They do a diagnostic on it, and they make the determination if they're gonna honor the warranty, okay? So you take that for what it's worth, but it doesn't cover drops, it doesn't cover surges, doesn't cover lightning strikes. We cover all of those things under our MagnaCare warranty. So definitely something to think about. It's a differentiator when it comes to the companies you guys are gonna be using. So let's take a look at all these different products here. What is the one thing that is, common with all of these? You've got digital keypads, you got power supplies, you got electronic locks. The thing that are synonymous with all of them is they all need power. Every last one of these needs power. So that's an important aspect of access control. And the thing you want to remember when it comes to access control, I don't care how fancy it is. If you got a fancy card reader, biometrics, electronic locks that do all these cool things, if it's not powered appropriately, it's not going to work. It's as simple as that. And a lot of organizations we have seen, they just don't take this topic very, very important. So it really is something you have to have discussion about. So what we're going to be covering over the next, next 45 minutes is the path of power, things you should know before you pick the power, understanding power supplies, distribution boards. And we're going to cover a few scenarios so it helps you identify the importance of power. All right. So if you have any questions, I'm going to make sure you guys pop it into that chat. Okay. And we'll get those answered. Okay. So, all righty, let's see here. Nothing yet? Okay. So first thing we're going to talk about here is, let me get this. I just froze up. Hold on a second. All right. So here's your basic access control system. All right. Very straightforward. You've got card readers, strikes, door position switches, recs, and then you have your power supplies, your controls, your access control panel. The thing you want to remember about this is a lot of these products require power. So it's really important to have yourself a load calculator. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to populate your chat with quite a few links so you guys can have those. It has a load calculator on it that you can use if you want to use that, as well as some of the products that ASSA ABLOY offers, and give you that little information. So those are live links, so go ahead and use those. The thing about this is we want to make sure we're using the right power supply with all these different products. And then here's the important thing, the fire relay. We want to make sure that we are looking at our code. What does the code require in your particular location? And some organizations are going from state to state, city to city, and that code can change. So it's really important to identify your fire relay and if your access control system needs to be tied into that. So really important to have that conversation with your AHJ when it comes to powering your access control system. Also, here's another one, a lot of popular changes when it comes to access control. So we've got our basic electronic, say our mortise lock here, where we're core drilled the door here, and then we tie to our third-party interface, our control panel, power supply, all these things then is tied to our Ethernet so we can see the status of our doors online. But once you start adding all these extra things to it, like PoE, you need to know the VDC, power controller, reader lock, all those types of things, as well as your distance. That's a really important aspect of access control. How long is your wire run is going to be? And remember, we're dealing with DC. So you have to measure from there to the door and back. A lot of organizations forget that, as well as the gauge wire you're going to be using to run from your controller to those electronic locks. And we see that a lot, where the biggest symptom we see is card reader range. You'd be surprised, most of the customers we deal with don't know what a good card reader range is. It's 1 to 4 inches. And I'll see it all the time where they have to put their card or whatever they're using in order to open the door, and have to put it right on the door, rub it around, do what they have to do. That's because the reader's not being powered appropriately due to voltage drop or using too thin a wire. All these things are very important to consider when you're looking at your power supply, okay? As well as code. Now I'm gonna talk real quick about that. We are doing a code class in about a week. So go to ASSAABLOY.com and we can get you smarter when it comes to code and tying in your access control system. So stairwell fire door, is it locks, fail safe, fail secure? How does that going to work with your access control system? Is the power supply you're going to be using able to, be able to do that? So that's an important aspect. And the questions you need to get answered when you're doing your site survey. Does this stairwell need to be unlocked or locked, whatever the case may be, when you're looking at your access control system, doing your site survey. Some of the other things you may be looking at, now this is simple. This is a basic closed circuit. So right now you got a magnetic lock, you push the exit button, digital keypad, DK20, very simple access control system. But then you have to ask the question, does this need to be tied to my fire alarm? Does it need to release upon activation? Can that power supply does that? Do I have a fire trigger on my power supply, and can I connect it to my fire alarm? Those are important code questions to get answered. So their power supply can definitely make it easier or make it a lot harder. So code is an important thing, okay? So here's a couple different types of power supplies you're gonna see out there. So Securetron makes all different types of power supplies. So you kind of need to know the number of amperage you're gonna need. Your distribution, is it gonna be 12 or 24 volt? How many outputs do I need are all good questions you're gonna have to get answered. So these are important things to pay attention to. Why is it important? Like here is an example of access control system. These are HID Mercury boards that you'll see right here, but then you see at the bottom right is a power supply. And typically you're gonna see, these types of control panels has its own dedicated power supply, so you don't have any issues. So all of these, from the control panel all the way to your buttons, your digital keypads, your electronic locks, all require power. And one miscalculation can cause many return service calls. So that's an important thing you want to remember. Things you need to know before you pick your power. What about the existing conditions? What are you going to be dealing with? What kind of power do you have access to? What's your voltage? Is it 130? Is it 240? What is it? Are you going to need multiple locations to power your access control system? And an important thing here, a rule of thumb for especially your control panels, a dedicated circuit is really, really important. And then we're running wire. We adhere to the National Electrical Code, or NEC. So a dedicated circuit is really important to have when you're dealing with access control. So it's typically a rule of thumb. I don't know what everybody's philosophy when it comes to that. So just something that we try to recommend at ASSA ABLOY, okay? So you're gonna have multiple locations. Those things you're gonna have to consider while you're doing your site survey. What is the existing conditions? Are you gonna be able to run power through the ceiling, or what's your wire drop gonna be down to each one of the openings? These are important things to remember. What's your return or your round trip as far as your access control system? What's your voltage drop? If you haven't put a voltage drop calculator on your phone, you really want to do that. You really do. It asks you very simple questions because your voltage drop can be different from each location that you see here. Where you start off with 1 amp worth of power, it will not be 1 amp worth of power depending on where you position your power supply. Important thing, ask your techs, do you know what your voltage drop is? Okay, that's an important, because that will reduce your return service call. There's many of them out there. It doesn't matter if you have a Samsung or iPhone. Just ask you basic questions of what's your wire size, what's your wire run, what's your beginning amperage, okay? And it's gonna tell you what your voltage drop is. You should be probably within plus or minus of 10% of your total power requirement. And that way you're gonna be good to go. You shouldn't have any issues as long as you fall within that range. All right? So again, code. Know what code your state is using. NFPA is a very good one. ICC is another one, but you can have local amendments and written policies, because folks here, HO Flakes in Texas, I'll use them as an example. Houston can be very different from Dallas. Dallas can be very different from Austin. And that all depends on who your fire marshal is and what the interpretation of the code is. So definitely be aware of that, know who they are, and create a relationship with them. Very important to do that so you don't have to redo any work. And I'm sure we've all ran across some of those fire marshals that have that. Okay, so make sure you know what code's adopted, what year's adopted, and you have to be aware they're writing 2021 right now. Okay, the most current one is 2018. There are certain states that are still under 2003, the state itself, but the city may be under a different code. So you want to be aware of that. And then those local amendments and written policies like magnetic lock installation, 2 modes of egress tied into a fire alarm system is required by some states, some it's not, just depends on the state. So just be aware of that and get familiar with those. All right. So understanding power supplies. The important thing you want to remember here is that everything on this screen typically requires power. So you got your certain amount of milliamps for your hardware, your switches. The question you need to ask about this, is it a common or smart switch? If it's a smart switch, it requires power. Even if there's an LED on it, it's considered a smart switch. You want to know what your distance, your out and your return, what size gauge wire you're using. Typically, like for those here, just write in your chat, what type of, what gauge wire do you guys typically run? If you guys are, I don't know what part of the country you guys are in, but what typical size gauge do you run? Anybody know? 18 from Andrea. That's good. Anybody else? 18 too? Okay. All right, good. But you're right. Absolutely. 18 gauge is the wire size we're going to recommend because it has a lot less resistance for the cost. But we find organizations are running, a lot smaller, 20 gauge, even 22 gauge, which can definitely open yourself up to a lot of problems. The money that you save on that smaller wire, you're going to get back in return service calls because of that. You want to know what type of distribution boards you're going to be running, how many distribution boards you're going to have, what's the outputs for each one, what's the amperage requirement. So these are very important questions to get answered as you're looking at the openings, your site survey that you're performing. So that's an important thing. If you're not doing site surveys, we highly recommend that. If you don't know how to do one, get with your local rep, ASSA ABLOY rep, get on their calendar. They will help you out and they will give you an educated way to look at the opening, okay? So really important. I see somebody, okay, yeah, you put it in the question and answer. Awesome, 22 to 18. It just depends. Your 22 really depends on your wire run. If you're just running it from your power transfer down to the lock, that may work, okay? But long wire runs, that can be problematic. So just be aware of that. So as you can see, like magnetic locks are 450 milliamps, card readers are 170, motion sensor 130, all of these have a power requirement. And then we have a total of 1,140 milliamps. Now just imagine that on multiple doors, okay? You have the multiple doors. That does dictate a lot what power supply you're going to pick, the size power supply you're going to pick, as well as the voltage you're going to be using to push that electricity down that wire. Now, we recommend for your closed circuit, 20% minimum spare power. That way you take care of the voltage drop. You're not going to have any issues. Now, if you have a huge access control system, 50% is what we're going to recommend because you can forget, say, one HR button at 70 milliamps. Say you forget that on, I just didn't put it in the specs, and you've missed that on 10 doors. That's a lot of milliamps. That is a lot of milliamps, and you can cause all kinds of problems because depending on the circuit that you're putting it on, cause your other products not to work. And people are, they're calling Tony, they're calling, ASSA ABLOY, and then we have to figure out what the problem is. Now, outputs per circuit, really important to pay attention to this. What is your output per circuit, per output? You have 1 amp or you have 2 amps. Do you need a fire relay? What does your code say when it comes to this choice? So that's an important thing to consider. We make power supplies now that have 2 amps per output put, and we're going to recommend you start with 2 amps versus 1 amps. Takes care of a lot of the voltage drop issues you're going to run across, and you have more power available to you. Okay, so that's an important thing to kind of pay attention to. All right. And here's another access control system. This is one from HID, our sister company. It shows you all the different power requirements, our digital keypads, our card readers, our control panel boards. All these things are really important. And like we're saying, it depends on what your code says. Again, we're going to recommend, hey, a dedicated power supply for one, for these reader boards. That way you don't have any issues with that, especially our processors. If you're not powering it here, you're going to have problems at the door. You're going to have a lot of problems at the door. So just kind of, really pay attention to power. I'm just covering all kinds of stuff up. So dedicated power supply for your controllers with surge suppression is a thing that we're going to recommend. So just kind of be aware of that. All right. So let's talk about power. It is the heart of the system. Everything else goes with power. Yes, we do our locks, we do our card readers, our digital keypads, our buzzers, but everything else is an accessory to power. That's the thing. If you don't power it appropriately, you will have issues. Now, there's 2 types of powers that are out there. There's linear power and switching power. Have you guys heard of both types of power? Just want to see. Just chime in on your chat or your question and answer. Have you heard the differences, or have you heard of switching and linear power? Kind of gauge, it helps me gauge my audience. Okay, all right, I'm glad. Thank you guys very much for being honest. So linear power and switching power, it's a big deal. Linear power has been around a lot longer than switching power. And how do you tell a linear power supply? It has a steel block or iron block in the power supply. And what a linear power does is basically, we start off with AC. AC goes in a wavy motion, okay? We're transforming that AC to a DC. The straighter the line of DC, the better it is for your access control system. Performance is better, okay? And the actual service life is extended, okay? Linear power has been around a long, long time. But now you're starting to see a lot of switching power. It doesn't make as straight a line as linear power, but it does take out the majority of the ripples. You got like a little ripple versus a straight line of electricity. But the difference is linear power has, it's a little bit more costly to make that AC turn to that DC, but you get better electricity, better gas for your access control system, where switching power is a lot less costly, but the efficiency is a lot better. So you just kind of have to weigh what your customer is looking for. So though both of those power supplies are available to you, switching versus linear power supply. Okay, so this gives you a quick snapshot of linear. Like linear's been around a long time, uses diodes, capacitors. Like we're saying, 60% efficient with that. Conversion is required for use outside, doesn't tolerate small losses of power, handles voltage load changes a lot better. The switching power supply, number one, the power supply is a lot less as far as cost is concerned. Converts DC to low voltage, but it's not, as efficient. You can see 93% efficiency, though it doesn't cost as much to run compared to linear. So it operates pretty much worldwide. So those are your difference between your linear and your switching power. Good gas, great gas to your access control system, good gas to your access control system. So that's the difference between the two. So it just depends on what your customer is looking for. For recommendation, we we'll recommend linear power for magnetic locks, because magnetic locks require power all the time. So we want to give it that good gas. So, you know, that's kind of how we, how I look at it. All right. Okay. So another thing we want to, point out, that moved fast. Okay. Fuses versus PTCs. A lot of folks don't realize that you have a choice when it comes to power supplies. Everybody knows what a fuse is, right? It faults, you know, and basically pops or stops electricity from flowing from your access control system. Once it's tripped, you have to put a little bit of aluminum foil on it. You put it back in there to work. No, don't do that. I'm joking, right? But you have to change it out and put another fuse in. Well, PTCs, positive temperature coefficients, are resettable. Once the fault happens, you basically take power away from the power supply, let it, and then you put power back to it, it resets. You don't have to change out a fuse. Fuses are available from 1 amp to 2 amps. You got your PTCs from 1 amp to 2 amps as well. So we just want you guys to know that that is available for you, to depending on what the customer is looking for, okay? Now, this is the important thing here. UL 294. Have anybody heard of UL 294? Let me get that out there. It's been out about a year now. UL 294. Just pop in your chat if you've heard of this new change. No? Okay. That's an important thing. All electronic components, access control is required to have a UL 294 listing certification. Okay, so that's really important for you guys to know that. That's power supplies, that's, you know, digital keypads, that's everything. Everything is required to have. Yeah, it is. UL 294 is definitely important when it comes to electronic components. Because here's what was going on. Everybody remember when Samsung was having all the problems with the phone blowing up and hoverboards blowing up and that kind of thing, igniting because of heat? Well, the Underwriters Laboratory wrote a new certification for electronic components, so that does not happen. So make sure whatever component you are choosing to use has a UL 294 listing on it. Okay, so it's really important. Your fire marshals will be checking for that. If they haven't, they will. So make sure your components have that certification listed on there, especially with your power supplies. Okay, so just be aware of that. You want to check for those. Those are important. Okay, so I'll make sure and send Brett and Travis, some documentation on UL 294. Reach out to those guys, and I'll send it to Tony and our reps so they make sure they have it too. So if you want to know more about UL 294, reach out to those guys and we'll make sure you are educated when it comes to this new certification and requirement. Okay, so definitely be aware of that. So let's talk a little bit about the circuit board itself. So here you see a fire relay. It's already integrated in to your distribution board right here. But then we have our power. So you'll see two parts in a power supply. This is the actual conversion of your AC to your DC, and this is your distribution board. Okay, so really important that you guys can identify that, especially when you come into troubleshooting or just making sure your access control system is working like it's supposed to. Okay, so let's kind of point out some of those things here. All right, so first and foremost, we've got our AC in. So you want to know what voltage you can put to your actual power supply here. So you got anywhere from ACs to 150 to 230 right here. So typically you'll see your green, your white, and your black wire that is connected there. Okay, we got a chat question here. All righty, so be aware of that. We also have our 12 and 24 volt selector. So this is a dual voltage power supply. So if you want to go from 12 to 24, you can do that really easy right here. So what voltage do you guys typically run with your access control systems? Is there one that you particularly go with? It does depends. It does depends on the product. Okay. Majority of ASSA ABLOY products are 12 or 24 volt. You can go either or. Okay. But with 12 or 24 volt, you really have to pay attention to voltage drop, especially if you're using 12 volt. 12 volt with a small gauge wire will give you problems. So be aware of that. Plus you have this right here, your output, your DC output to your distribution board. And then you have your monitor, your AC fail, your battery fail, those types of things there. So really simple board to pay attention to and kind of identify. This is your transformer that actually bridge rectifies from your AC down to your DC, all right? So you want to know your voltage and your amperage there. So that tells you that. So let's take a look at our literature here. Okay, now a lot of our power supplies now, it used to be when you switch from 12 to 24 volt, you would cut the amperage in half. So a 6 amp power supply would now become a 3 amp power supply when you switch from your 12 to 24 volt. We don't have that issue anymore. So definitely something you want to pay attention to. So if you switch from 12 to 24 volts, you still have your 6 amps worth of power. That's huge. That's huge. Okay, and then you have your dedicated battery charging circuit. A lot of our competitors, once you put in your backup battery, you're taking power from that power supply. And you're also taking power from your access control system. So you're losing 170, 200 milliamps worth of power just by putting battery backup. We have a separate circuit now for battery backup, separate circuit for your access control system. So if it's 6 amps, you're getting 6 amps to your power supply. So that's a huge deal. That 170, 200 milliamps can make a big difference. So you definitely want to check that out. Also, your output voltage, 12 or 24 volt, know which one you're going to be using. And then your current UL rating. What is your continuous output? Are you actually starting with 6 amps or less than? Another thing I want to point out here is your output ripple full load. That's really different from us compared to the competitor, okay? What is ripple? Electrical noise, okay? That humming sound, like some of us is old enough to remember when you flip on the light when you went to school and you hear that gung sound. That's electrical noise. And ours is comparatively less than any of our competitors. So you don't get that humming sound when you're running electricity to your products. You can hear it with a lot of the power supplies that are out there. Okay, and they do come in different sizes and different functions. So it's really important to kind of know what you're gonna be, what you're gonna be using, what your site survey is gonna say. Fuses versus PTCs, universal versus separate control, like you see with your relays. How much power is required? Outputs and amperages outputs are really important, aspects of access control. So if you ever have any questions, number one, you can use the ASSA ABLOY customer support app. You can use that. You can use our local reps to help you identify and make sure you're ordering the right products here. So there's multiple outputs. That's an important part of access control. How many outputs you're going to need? We've got 4, we've all the way up to 8. So that's an important thing you want to know. About the switch to turn 12 to 24 volt? Yes. What's your question? Oh, you can move a dip switch. You can move a dip switch and actually transform your AC from 12 to 24 volt. And that does depend on your wire gauge, and it depends on your wire run. Good question. So it's just moving. I'm going to recommend you use 24 volt if at all possible, because you can push your electricity a lot farther with 24 volt versus 12 volt. You put 12 volts, say on 20 gauge wire, you have a very severe voltage drop, and you may not be getting all the amperage you need to power each and every one of your openings. Okay, so you present the card, the reader doesn't read, or you have to present it multiple times. Maybe the electrified stripe or you're using isn't retracting all the way. These are all symptoms of voltage drop. So that's an important thing to remember. Now, each one of these outputs has an amperage rating. You can go 1 amp or 2 amps for each one of these. So that's an important thing. Again, we're going to recommend 2 amps with each one of these outputs because you have more power to start with. Each one of these circuits is configurable based on the jumper position, especially if you tie with the fire relay. So like, here's an example. You got a server room. You don't want the door to release if there's a fire in the building. You want it to remain unlocked. You can easily create that circuit just by moving this dip switch in a certain position so that door does not unlock, where all the other doors, say stairwells, remain closed, or whatever you're looking for. So you can do each one of these circuits as it's tied to the fire relay with each one of these outputs, which is really cool feature to be able to have and be able to, talk to the customer about. Okay, so very important to have those configurable fire relays.
We got a question, Russ.
Okay.
How to know how many outputs are needed by Ms. Andrea?
Okay, how many outputs? Well, it depends on how many openings you're going to be powering. Okay, you can do output for each opening, each circuit. Okay, say like typically, the average doors is like 1 amp per door if you're sticking with basic access control principles. So if you got electric strike with a card reader, digital keypad, 1 amp is fine. You can do that output for that particular opening. That's kind of how I do it. But you can, depending on your output, you got 2 outputs, you can tie in multiple openings with that 1 output. So it just depends on your philosophy or your theory when it comes to powering your products.
I like to have everything fused, every device.
Yeah. Do LEDs, D8 show the individual outputs or have an output the fuse is good? Well, it depends on your access control system. Like we have the AQL that you can tie to a network, and it'll tell you what's going on with your with each one of the openings. Brett, did you had a statement, Britton?
Oh, no, sir.
Okay, I thought I heard somebody chime in. Okay, so LED on D1. Let me make sure I'm asking you the right one here. On the actual board. Hold on, let me back up then. Okay. When you're fused, say like this one here, this has PTCs on it. Okay. If this was a fuse and it popped or stopped working, this LED would go out. Okay. So you have a visual indicator to let you know that the fuse is popped. But you can tie this with access control system and let you know what's going on with each one of your circuits. And Tony, please, you got a lot more experience than me. Chime in whenever you want, sir. Okay, when it comes to this. Okay.
And those PTC fuses, when they overheat, that's when they reset, right?
Exactly. They turn off.
Turn off.
Exactly. They turn off. So now you don't have to replace a fuse. If you have one pop, you just basically let it cool off and you put power back to it and you have your access control system.
Right.
Yep. So it's a huge cost savings. And the thing is, I don't think there's much price difference between fuses versus PTCs.
If I'm not mistaken, I think they're exactly the same, but I'll verify that when you move on.
There you go. There you go. Tony says no price difference at all. There you go. Perfect. Okay. All right. Some of the other things we want to point out here is, those specifications, which is really important here. If I can make it go, there you go. Our voltages easily tolerates from 12 volts to 28 volts. You really shouldn't be running too much more than 28 volts. Anything more than that, it's going to cause your products to overheat. Okay, and that's a big deal. So you want to make sure that you're staying within that. Your outputs, again, 1 amp to 2 amp. We're going to recommend 2 amp outputs. The sales guys, they can talk about the price difference between 1 amp versus 2 amps. I don't think there's any difference, but I could be wrong. I'm not a price guy. So we make it easy for you to choose that right power supply. And it's all based right in the actual acronym of the power supply, like AQD1, dual voltage 12 or 24 volt, 1 amp. Really simple. AQD2, dual voltage 2 amp, dual voltage 4 amp, dual voltage 6 amps. And then we do have our single voltage power supplies. If you know what voltage you're going to be running, 12 volt, 10 amp, single voltage 24 volt, 10 amp. So if you're using some of those bigger, power supplies, you can definitely go with single voltage. All right, dedicated battery circuit. Again, want to point that out. For your battery backup, there's a separate circuit on our power supplies compared to a lot of our competitors that are out there. So it's a 6 amp power supply that's going to your access control system, because we have 2 different circuits. One for your battery backup if you need it, and the other one goes to the actual access control system. All right. So we have ways of monitoring your output points. And again, this is how you switch from your 12 to your 24 volt, okay? You just pick this jumper up and move it from your 12 to your 24 volt. It's that simple. That simple. It's not hard at all to do that, okay? So just be aware that especially some of the products you are going to be installing or specifying may require 12 or 24 volts. So just be aware of that, okay? All right, do we have the same thing? Yeah, go ahead.
Got a question for you. I'll go ahead and finish this one. I'll get it once you finish.
Okay. All right, yeah, I see it here. Again, like I said, it's 12 or 24 volts. Your typical output is 12.5 VDC for your battery backup. It doesn't matter if it's a single voltage or a dual voltage power supply. We have that same solution on each one of ours. Go ahead, Brendan.
Question is, I have a double mag lock to a single door, and sometimes I have to reset or turn on and off because door's not closing. It is any problems with the amps? I guess he's asking, is it a problem with amps?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, with double mags, especially if you use an ASSA ABLOY mag locks, typically it's not the mag lock. Really, it really isn't. It's electricity on, electricity off. So there's a problem with electricity going to the magnetic lock on a continuous basis. It could be something as simple as a wire moving in the frame, okay? But to reset the actual mag lock in order for it to work, there's a problem in the circuit somewhere. There's a problem with the circuit, and it's intermittently not allowing the mag lock to work. So just definitely want to figure that out, and definitely caution about having to reset. You have to turn the AC off and on. Is it connected to a power supply, or you're running AC directly to it? Power supply. Okay, there's a problem in the circuit then. There's a problem in the circuit. Could be, I'm thinking loose connection. Something happens when that door opens and closes. So maybe a wire's moving, losing connection. You gotta get your multimeter out and find the issue. I mean, honestly, that's what I would do. Find the issue when it comes to that, because here's a quick fix for you. Take a plug-in power supply, the little plug or 9-volt battery, and put it directly to your magnetic lock wire, okay? If it pulls your door closed, it's not the mag lock. It's somewhere within the circuit of your, where the wires run. And I'm thinking it's a wire run or a loose connection somewhere, okay? But thanks for the question, appreciate that. All right, so discovering distribution boards here. Now, this is where a lot of folks start getting confused because there's so many different types of distribution boards, but we have a cheat sheet, and I think I put it in the chat. So make sure you guys click on those links and download that literature, like PDB, 4F. Is it a glass fuse or is it a PTC? Like you see, 4F fuse, 4FC PTCs, power distribution board, 8 fire relay, okay? So we do our best to make it as simple for you. Even we have our fire triggers as well, relay here for fire trigger relay. So if you ever have any questions with those, our local reps and our tech support, download that ABLOY customer support app, okay? They're gonna definitely help you out. We have live streaming on that app. Nobody in the industry has that. So you can be at your power supply, use your camera, live stream what you're looking at, and our tech support that's in Phoenix can look at it and help you out. So ABLOY customer support, I can't tell you how much of a great tool that is, okay? Continuous outputs are really important. They provide consistent power to the lock and access control panels. So why is that important? Because a lot of products you guys are installing cannot have power stop. If it does, then you got to reset it. You're going to have problems and things aren't going to work like they're supposed to. So you want to have continuous power going to these products once it's installed. You have intermittent issues like that gentleman was having. Intermittent issues with that magnetic lock can cause issues. Okay, so definitely something you want to take a look at. All right, we also have a fire relay option, 4 amp. 10 amps coming soon as far as our relay option is concerned, as far as our fire trigger. Very easy installation. You just run the 2 wires, positive and negative, into our reset and you're good to go. But typically you have to have a special certification, electrician, fire burglar person is the one certified to make that connection. So definitely be aware of that. Keep an eye on my time here. Oh my goodness, okay. Time flies when you're having fun. So you have your PTC option with this one as well. And this gives you a nice little cheat sheet of your jumper configuration. So again, right in the field, you can have all different types of solutions available for the customer just based on your jumper configuration here. So you got your jumper applied upon fire trigger, powers applied, power not affected upon fire trigger, power released by fire trigger. And you can do this with each one of the outputs. Again, you just look at each one of the openings here, okay? Really simple thing to be able to do. Fire outputs with our relay here. You can go all the way up to 8 outputs. You can have relays for each individual one. And here's a nice cheat sheet for your power distribution board. Many different solutions, many different configurations from 1 amp to 2 amp. And then based on whatever size power supply that you're looking at, okay? Keeps it very simple. Power supply comes with your enclosure, the amperage, your distribution board if you need a fuse or a PTC, or you need a fire trigger relay. Makes things very simple. It tells you how to put that together. We also have a power supply configurator right on our website to give you the information you need, okay? Step-by-step configuration here. And real quick, just give you a quick scenario here. Gives you all of the different products and pieces that you need. And it just basically makes you think about the type of amperage that you need. So here, like the manager of Dawn's Flower Shop here, locally owned retail store, she's looking to have a simple access control to her front door, determine the amount of power and the appropriate AQ series power supply, power distribution board that's required here. So it gives you a basic circuit of what you're looking at: power transfer hinges, exit devices, digital keypad timers, power supply, and what the power requirement is for each one of these. Okay, so each one has a power requirement. So we're looking at your circuit here, 1650 milliamps because it's a latch retraction exit device, 7 to 8 timer control panel. So oh my God, that's a lot of power, right? So we need 1990 milliamps worth of power. So really important to kind of know it, especially when dealing with latch retraction. You had 20% spare, you need 2,388 milliamps worth of power. So I'm like, okay, I need a little bit more power. Then you can't just go with a 2 amp power supply, right? Can't do it. So you got to go a little bit higher on your power supply when it comes to that. So I'm looking at possibly an AQD4 power supply, not an AQD2, because our wire run is going to take some of that power away. okay? So we look at it with 24-volt system here, power distribution board, PD4C2, because we're gonna use a PTC with this one here. So a really simple way of looking at access control. You have to build your access control system. Because we're using an electrified lock versus a magnetic lock, fire relay is not required, okay? So I'm right at my time. There's a couple more scenarios, but I wanna make sure, give somebody a few minutes if there's any additional questions that they may have while we're going at this. I see something on the Q&A here. Okay, yes, Brenton, you are the best. Yes, you are. Okay, so just kind of think about that. Yeah, go ahead. Somebody said something.
One person said they don't see the links. Could you send the links over again?
Yes, sir, I can. Yes, I can. Hold on here. I didn't. I think it should be boom. Maybe I just send it to all panelists.
Yep.
There we go. Let me know if you see it.
Yep, it's there, 1 o'clock.
There you go. Perfect. So I've just provided the power supply calculator, power calculator, load calculator. Also some of the literature that's on the AQD and the AQL power supplies, as well as some of the brochures on there. So if you have any additional questions, as well as an article on tips and techniques for choosing the right power supply from the Locksmith Ledger, that's available to you too. So take advantage of ASSA ABLOY, our local reps, they are there. Let me get to that right quick. Give you that information here, a lot of scenarios. We just didn't have time to go through. We also have free wiring diagrams. ASSA ABLOY Academy does free online classes, and our ASSA ABLOY customer support app. Download that. I'm telling you, that's going to be a huge time saver. Use it during your site survey, use it during troubleshooting. You're definitely going to enjoy that, and it's going to reduce your return service calls. So this is my contact information, and Roger, which is my colleague as well. So write that down. Customer care tech support as well, if you have any questions on power supplies, on any ASSA ABLOY solutions, okay? Any questions from anybody else? No? Okay, Travis, Brenton, you can close us up. Thank you guys for your time. And we
thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. And again, I guess all the contact info is there to reach out to Russ. And the links are in the chat. Be sure and grab those real quick before we close this out. If you did want to review and go back, this actually streamed live on the HL Flake YouTube channel. So just go find our channel and it's on there. You could go review it. Yeah, again, thank you, Russ, for your time, and Tony. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. You guys have a good week.
Stay safe.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Russ.
All right, bye.